Could you please tell me a bit about yourself and what it is you do?
Um, so you know my name.
Yes, I know your name. I know you're
You
a
know,
professor at Harvard.
I'm a professor at Harvard Business School. This
Yes.
is the third university at which I've been a professor. Before this one was Northwestern, and before that it was University of Illinois. Uh, Before that, I got my PhD at Stanford University. And before that, I was an undergraduate at University of California at Berkeley.
Okay.
And I grew up in the San Francisco area, actually, as your virtual background.
Yeah.
That is my, yeah, that is my home. Um, and I spent 30 years of my life growing up there and
Yeah.
getting my education there. And then my career took me to another part of the country. Um, and took me very far away, actually. Uh, so
Have you been a
let's see. I
professor
think
all
for
your life?
this last 30 years, yeah.
Okay.
My first, yeah, since my degree. It's not my first paying job, if that's what you mean. I've I've had many
Yeah.
many other jobs before this one.
I guess after your degree, yeah.
Yeah, but after the degree, yes, it was. I certainly got to this point uh, partially on purpose and partially by accident. Um, so I could say I was born with several gifts. Probably the most notable one, and the one I still use today, is I have an unusual ability to concentrate on something and
Okay.
focus on it. That's been true since I was young, since as long as I can remember, 3 years old. And I didn't know that that was unusual. That was just who I was. Um, um, but it did mean I was unusually good at mathematics,
Oh, okay.
where concentrating helps.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I thought that's just the way everybody was. I had no idea. That's just, when I was a kid, you could put a math problem in front of me, I could figure it out. That's what it was. I could read. You put books in front of me. Okay, I just read them. I didn't know that was unusual. I, that's just,
So could you just so you wouldn't get distracted easily is what it is, or
that's correct.
okay.
Yes. And I was reading at age 3 and 4, and my parents talk about this. And yeah, by the time I was 12, I was reading college level literature and
Okay.
didn't like, okay, I didn't know that was. Um, my parents tell me this. I don't remember this as being odd. That's who I am, though. Okay, so just so you know.
Okay.
And otherwise, for athletics, which I know you're going to ask about,
Yeah,
I
you
was a
do.
soccer player. So
Okay.
I was attracted to soccer, which is unusual for an American.
Is it?
And it was when I was young, yes. It's less unusual now. Um, my older brother, he's older, is a better athlete. He is an exceptional baseball player and golfer. Actually, no, you're interested in golf.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh, and my father also is a golfer and was a wrestler. Wrestling.
yes, yes.
Yeah, when he was younger, and and so my brother tried to get me to play baseball, and I was terrible. And he got interested in soccer, and so we played that together, and that we were more equal
Yeah.
because I'm very fast.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'm actually I'm an average soccer player. I think it's a good remark. I'm not a bad soccer player. I'm
Yeah.
average. Yeah,
So you run
and
fast,
in
right?
but
So
I'm
you,
fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So in America, that makes me a good soccer player. In the rest of the world, that just makes me average. But in but in where I was growing up, that made me a good soccer player. So I was drawn to that. Um, then I played forward and then eventually middle, if you know soccer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah, a lot of running. And then how did I get to be a professor? As I went to college,
Yeah,
and
so
like most people, I didn't take it seriously. Uh,
you didn't take
and
college seriously? Okay.
I never took studies seriously. I never understood why other people did. I just did well, but I never had to work hard. Remember,
Okay.
I just I didn't understand. And then I got to college and it was hard and I wasn't succeeding and had to, for the first time ever, I had someone told me I wasn't doing well in school and began to recognize, I began to learn the school I had grown up with wasn't very good. And other people had attended much better schools and and had been trained in writing, and there were things you could be trained in. They were trained in mathematics. I just picked up what I picked up. I didn't have any training. Uh, and there was training in how to write. I had no training really. I had a little bit, but not a lot. It's just things I picked up. And I began to, in my first year of college especially, understand that. And then you kind of have to make a choice. I made a choice gradually. Do you either take this seriously or not? And I decided to take it seriously. And I was sort of lucky in retrospect that I took a course in economics
Yeah.
in my first year. Yeah, and modern economics combines mathematics with social science. And I was not interested at that era, in that age. I am now, but I'm too old to learn new tricks. But I wasn't interested in physics or astronomy or chemistry or biology. I came from a terrible, not terrible, I came from a mediocre high school. So I had terrible scientific training. Not terrible, but mediocre.
Okay.
I was to become a professional scientist then would have been you need to learn things and you need to learn them quickly as a teenager. It's very hard in the United States to become a professional scientist without good training. And I kind of began to see I can't be a professional scientist. I don't have the training unless I really want to work hard, like change everything. But I came to economics, and boy, I didn't have to work. The mathematics was easy, and the social science was things I found interesting. And I was lucky that came to me in my first year, and I went that direction. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then later I found history and statistics, which statistics I find very fascinating also.
Okay.
And again, and then I was just lucky, unlucky and lucky. One of my roommates died in an auto accident, and I began to think about why are we here? And uh, and a professor I knew there took some interest, and asked me what I was doing and did I want to be a professor, and no one had ever even asked me that before. And so those sort of things together kind of combined. And there was another thing. I also dropped out of school for a little bit, for a little while, when my
Oh,
brother finished his college, and he and I went traveling around Europe for 3 months, 2 months, and I traveled around the United States for a month by myself. And this was something I would continue for many years. This is how I got to Jakarta, by the way. uh,
okay.
yeah, and sort of, yeah, like, wow, there's this wide world out there, and isn't it interesting?
It is
And
interesting.
yeah, and so I decided to start writing, and I started writing for myself. And then this professor said, Why don't you think about becoming a professor?" Nobody ever said that to me, so I went and looked into that, and I started applying and thinking about it. And so I started taking classes in college. I came back to college, right? I dropped out for 6 months, and then I came back. And I started taking classes because I wanted them, not because I had to.
Yeah,
And then I've pretty much been like that ever since. I do what I do because I want to, and because it's so interesting, and there's so much. You can never run out of things to learn. I've kind of never stopped since then. So I'm sort of,
yeah.
yeah, that started when I was 20 years old. No, here I am 60. So yeah, I've been doing that for 40 years now. So
You don't
I
look like you're
started
60.
writing, yeah, and so I went to graduate school, and I was just amazed. Wow, look at all these things. I just got lucky, you know.
Yeah,
Got to a good school, and it, look at all these things people think about. And I started thinking about it, and I got interested in technology because technology and innovation are always changing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what I study now. I still study that, and I still have a historical view of modern technology. And then also in graduate school, I took a little more time. I also started traveling again. I put on a
yeah.
backpack and went around the world. And uh, so, as a matter of fact, I've been to Indonesia. Let's see, how many times?
How many times have you been to Indonesia?
Yeah. Let's see. This would be it'd be two times. The first time was when I've been to Asia several times, more than twice, obviously. But when I was finishing my dissertation, I told myself, already by then I had been around the world, and I had been to Thailand, and you couldn't go to Vietnam or Cambodia then. It was
Oh,
1985.
okay.
Yeah, and an American. Oh no, you can't. You couldn't go to Cambodia. No, right, bad idea. Or Vietnam. Oh my goodness, not as an American. But
Yeah,
I'd been to Hong Kong, and China wasn't open yet, and I went to India, and I've been Thailand and so on, and Myanmar.
yeah.
Yeah, which is
Myanmar.
amazing. Oh my God, what an amazing country! What a sad country. Oh, they have the worst government in the world. Oh my gosh, it's so sad. What wonderful, wonderful people. And so after that, when I was doing my dissertation, I said I didn't get to Indonesia, so I'm promising myself Indonesia if I finish a dissertation. And so I finished a dissertation. When I finished it, I kind of looked up because it's very hard work to write a PhD, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, I'm going to go. I promised myself this. Okay, I'm going to go. So I didn't know what I was going to, I just flew to Bali,
yeah.
and had a week in Bali, which was fun as all could be. That was just a vacation. And then went over to, and then spent the rest of a couple weeks on the island of Java. And that was fun. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had to come home.
Of
I had
course.
to take a job. Yeah, and then And then when I was a professor, I told myself after a couple of years, I got to go back. So this time I went to Sumatra for several weeks, and
I've never been to
uh,
Sumatra.
yeah, it's wow. It was the rainforest. I'd never really seen a rainforest, so I wanted to see a rainforest.
Okay,
So yeah,
that's
so I
cool.
went to see the rainforest. The rain was kind of amazing, and yeah. Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah, climbed up some volcanoes. The first trip I climbed a couple volcanoes. That was fun. Yeah,
yeah.
Merapi. I climbed Merapi, which I guess you can't climb anymore because it went off. Uh,
Oh, did it
and I
go
went,
off?
yeah, and then I went to Lombok. I climbed that one too. That was fun. Anyway, then I came, took my job, and I've been writing ever since.
Yeah.
And I've been a runner ever since.
Okay.
Uh,
So, to what extent do you think technology will influence, I guess, the field of business in the future?
oh, it's transforming everything.
Why is that?
This is what I'm writing about today, actually.
Okay.
At a broad level, it changes the reach of things. So what we're doing now,
Being able to talk
speak
over the internet.
the internet, 11-hour time difference, but that changes the reach of business in the sense that the scale of who customers a business can reach, and the scale and extent of suppliers from whom they can draw is larger in both directions. So
Yeah.
some of that is most obvious in the phenomenon of things like Google and Facebook and Apple, the big companies that reach many users. But the part you don't see very much, but is still just as important, is the other side. It's suppliers drawing from a larger extent and wider, um, wider set of suppliers, and yeah, and that's extraordinary. I find that part. I enjoy studying that quite a bit.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it enables technology enables personalization at no cost. Um,
What do you mean by that?
yeah, and that we're not done. We're nowhere near done. Before I die, it's still not going to be done. Uh, the Again, do you use Facebook? If I can use an example.
Uh, I personally don't use Facebook, but
Okay,
I
yeah,
know of it.
that's okay. Do you use Google?
Yes, I use Google.
Okay, I'm just trying to find an example. So that will resonate with you. Google will modify its results based on your history
Oh, okay.
and a whole series of other um, indicators it has about you. That's personalizing the result to you at no cost to them.
Is that all
And
with like algorithms and stuff, right?
correct, right. But at a high level, what's going on there is it's personalization at no incremental cost.
Yeah.
So I get a different result, you get a different one, everybody else gets a different one.
Like if we search the
That's
same thing.
extraordinary. Yeah, that didn't exist 50 years ago. That except without no, that never existed. Personalization has always been costly. You can do it with a lot of servants and with a lot of people, but that's only royalty. It's only for the rich.
Yeah.
So personalization at no cost is another feature of the present business environment, and we're not done. Many businesses are learning new ways to personalize at no cost.
Okay.
So those two things, extent of reach and personalization, are both new. Um, and then a third thing definitely is combinations that were previously unthinkable are now feasible. And those are very hard to forecast. So, my favorite example of this is you can now print a piece of art on a shirt,
Oh,
pants, a hat,
yeah,
gloves, a cup, uh, a dog dish, a bag, whatever you could think of. You could print it on your car. You can print it on anything, and that allows a combination. That combination of print and generic clothing
yeah.
allows for infinite combinations. And that's just a simple example.
Hmm.
But it's coming from a technology known as print on demand. So
Okay.
you have these machines where you just digitize them to take any design and then impose it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, yeah. Oh, the combinatorics that are emerging from digital business are uh, extraordinary. Also,
Yeah, that's
I find
cool.
that just fascinating. Yeah, it's really cool. It's fun. So that's what I mean by it. How it's changing business.
Okay.
If
Um,
you care, and you may not, but if you care, I wrote a whole book about the commercialization of the internet.
oh,
So that's
what's it called?
commercialization of the internet.
Okay, I'll look it
uh,
up. I'll check it out later.
yeah, uh, or it's called How the Internet Commercialized. That's actually what it's called.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and it's a history of where how the technology became a commercial technology and
Okay.
scaled up to commercial form.
Yeah,
So, what you are hearing me talk about now, how the internet changes business, that's going to be my next book.
that's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm
Um,
having fun.
it's good that you're having fun. So you need to be enjoying what you're doing, right?
Hmm. Your English is quite good, by the way, for somebody who's living in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Uh,
I go to an English school, so I speak English every day. I'm one of
oh,
the very few people here who can speak English fluently.
and what's your native language? Bahasa Indonesian?
Bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah,
Well, I speak English more than I do Bahasa Indonesia now, because of school.
but at home, you with your parents, you speak
I speak mixed.
mixed up.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, your parents are Indonesian, though, right? You're
Yeah, 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 they are. But I feel
cool.
like my my Indonesian has now become not so good because I just speak more in English. I think in English as well. So I think it's a bad thing. But yeah.
I, I don't know. I think the dual identity is a very common experience among the educated today.
Okay.
You're, you're both a world citizen and your home country citizen. This is a very common experience among the educated.
Mm,
It's a multiple identities. It's another another consequence of um, the modern integration, the reach of the internet. So
yeah.
it's a very interesting phenomenon. I don't understand it, but I see it. I perceive it. So, but I don't totally understand it. We used to all joke that we used to anticipate we would get opera, that we would get a world culture of opera and high art, and the most beautiful things ever. And you sort of got a little bit of it with the Golden Gate Bridge in your virtual background, but but in fact, world culture seems to mostly be Gangnam style videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, K-pop. So, uh, world culture isn't going to be a high culture. It's going to be a
Yeah.
it's going to be something somewhere in the middle. Who knows what?
Okay, I'm gonna ask another question to you. Um, so what are some lessons you've learned over the course of your life? Yeah, that's even answerable.
No, it's not, but it's okay. It's a, uh, you were particularly interested in athletics, right? And the role of athletics in life. So
Yeah.
we could go to that. We'll do that topic because that at
Okay.
least makes it more concrete and focuses it. Um, there's a joy in I'm a runner now. Okay, so that's what I do. I run. I tried swimming, doesn't do it for me. I tried golf. I am terrible. I'm very good at miniature golf, putting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mini golf.
And my brother and I, we can, but my brother is an extraordinarily good golfer.
Hmm.
And when you have that as your brother, you just, it, you go golf with someone like that and you grow up with someone like that. You just don't want to do it because he's just good.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do, I will never be as good. So, but I found with running, I'm very good. I'm fast. I'm naturally fast. So there's a lesson there, which is
Switches.
to be drawn to the things that you're better at, you're best at, and where you can be your best, and not necessary. You don't have to be best at everything, and we can all have our specialties. And in some ways, you don't have to compete with your brother. You can be
Yeah.
whatever works for you. That can sometimes be hard to find. But for me, it's running. And for many years, I did it just for the joy, because the joy of climbing a hill or running up a hill was there. This sort of for me, I don't know anything quite like that joy. I don't
Okay.
know if you if that gets you get anything from that, but
Yeah, I mean, like everyone has their own things that they do, right, to make themselves happy and have fun.
to have joy, yeah. So my brother has this thing very different than me, which is when he swings the club, he's focused in a way. I can see it in him that he gets joy from that, and then he lets go, and then he goes walks for
Yeah.
200 yards, and then he does it again. He gets joy from that. I don't. I'm much more of the tennis player personality.
Okay.
I get enormous joy from hit that damn thing really hard and then run around a little bit and then hit it really hard and then run
Yeah.
around a little
It's like a
bit. Yeah.
continuous sort of thing.
Yeah. And so similarly in my running, I get joy from run for a little while, and then here's a hill, and I put every goddamn thing I have into it, and I go up the hill. It's the same personality.
I see.
So that's who I am, and that's what I get joy from. I really get something from that. I like that. So now to do that, that's the joy part. So that's one lesson. Find it in yourself. You kind of have to understand yourself a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
what you're different from other people. What is another lesson I would say? um, the weather where I live today is not nearly as nice as where you live. So you're on the equator, more or less.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not. And when I grew up in the San Francisco area, we were much nicer weather. But where I am today in Boston is not very nice. We can have some pretty terrible days. Um, And the thing about running and about athletics in general is you have to do it regularly. You have to do it often.
Yeah.
And so there will be days, it is inevitable, when the wind is high and the temperature is cold and it is uncomfortable.
Okay.
And a lesson I have certainly learned is you embrace it. You don't, you have to learn to
So you embrace the
embrace
like bad weather.
the bad weather. And for two reasons. One, if you do that today, it makes tomorrow easier. And so you have to remember, even if it's painful today, it makes it easier to do it tomorrow. That's
Okay.
another lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's the second thing, which is um, to find the, again, adrenaline rush, the rush of going up the hill in the cold weather, to recognize, to find that thing in me that likes the challenge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had to, so reframing the uncomfortable as something I like is another lesson I learned from the bad weather. That's another one. And then a third lesson I've learned, certainly this is also athletics, is I need a race. So for
What
many
do you mean by that?
years, an organized race, with somebody who says this is the
Oh,
start, and
yeah.
there's a. So for many years, I just ran for fun. I would get the joy of climbing the hill. Just looking at your picture, I used to run in on the other side at the far end of the. I know that area. I used to run that area because it's so great. And on a day like the day that picture was taken, oh, so awesome! You would get to the top of a hill and you would look out, and it was just, oh my goodness, it was awesome.
Yeah.
That was why I started, but it turns out there's a third thing. It's really it's funny, but these organized artificial moments, races, can be focal devices to get the best performance out of you. Uh, and even though they're artificial and they're organized by somebody else, and they don't mean anything in the sense that they're not uh, I'm not a world athlete. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if I win or lose. The world's not going to be different no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but there, again, it's boy, is that a? It turns out those external challenges can define goals, and they can be very useful in defining a goal and disciplining my own activity. Like I want to reach that, so I'm going to orient myself towards that. And I can,
Okay.
when I first did the first one, it was I'd organized a week or two in advance, and
Mm-hmm.
then for many years that's all I did. All right, just a couple weeks away, I'll get organized for that.
Yeah.
And then actually very late in my life, when I turned 50, I did I thought, no, I'm going to do something more than a 5K. I'm going to do a 10K. And so I had to organize myself for a 10K, which takes more than a week or two. You need a month. You have to really
Prepare?
focus to prepare. Yeah. To If you want to do well, yeah, you have to think about what you know, you have to prepare. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did a 10K, and that was kind of fun. And you had to do sprints. You have to sprint as preparation for a 10K, because you've
Isn't it
got
more
to get
about
yourself,
like stamina instead of
yeah, stamina. And yeah, because a 5K is 20 minutes, but a 10K, that's 40 minutes of continuous running, up hills, down hills, and you are pushing yourself. So no, you have to prepare for that. Oh, sure, you could do it. Yeah, you could just do it, but no, that's not the same. So then, so I did a couple of those, and I'm like, huh, that was really interesting. So then I thought, I'm going to try a half marathon. I was 50 years old. I'd never done it before in my life. I thought, why not? But you can't just do that. And you can't just do it in a couple weeks. You have to prepare 2 months, 3 months in advance. You have to really actually prepare.
Did you
Uh,
prepare for it?
so the first one I took about 2 months, and I did it, and it turned out to be really hard. And I realized, no, you have to prepare 3 months. 2 months isn't enough. And so I prepared for the second one for 3 months, and yeah, it was enough. It was great, and it was extremely satisfying in a way. So that's getting to another lesson, which
As
is
in, like,
the
being able to
like
reach your goals after you
yeah,
work hard, right?
after you work hard, yeah, and that the discipline of and wow, satisfying in a way that's I'd never really appreciated how satisfying that was. And then I did the crazy thing. I ran a marathon,
A full one.
and that takes 3 months of planning. Yeah, minimum if you want to do well, and really sometimes more, 6 months. But I did 3 months, and yeah, did okay. But I came right off the half marathon, so I was in good physical condition then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I did two more, and then I got injured, and
Oh,
um, I did a bunch of half marathons then too. Um, and
but
then
do you
I've been
still
pretty much,
run now?
yeah, yeah. I still run now, and I've learned a lot about recovering from injury, which is all new to me. So, like, I didn't do this when I was your age. I should have, but I would have been a great runner when I was young had I
Tried it?
understood,
Or
had I tried it. Yeah, I enjoyed soccer. Now, had I had this discipline, and I read up on how you're supposed to train now, I didn't have anyone who just helped me understand how you're
okay.
supposed to train. The training makes a big difference. So anyway, yeah, and now I'm 6 months since the last time I've been injured. It's great. Oh, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm doing bicycling about every 2 weeks. I do a bicycle 40-minute, bicycle in place.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
helps. Yeah, and then I run every other day. 4 miles yesterday, and uh, and my goal is I would like to do a 10K sometime in the summer. Yeah,
Right. That's cool.
yeah, I can do a 5K now easily. Uh, but I mean, I did 2 weeks ago. These four other friends, so the five of us did a virtual marathon. It was because of the pandemic. We're not.
How does that work?
It was fun. Each of us did 1/5 of a marathon.
Oh, okay.
And it was
Did you do it at the
fun.
same time or like?
Oh, no, no, no. I was the fastest of the five of us. I didn't think I was going to be. The guy who should be faster, he just recently got injured. He's
Oh,
recovering from surgery. He and I had three of the five of us had run a half marathon together, um, and uh, I should say one guy's name is Greg. Another guy's name is um, Scott, and me. Greg, Scott, and I ran a half marathon together when Greg became 50 years old, and Greg is not a good runner. And he says so, and he laughs about it. And this virtual marathon is probably his last race ever. He even has said so.
yeah.
This will probably be the last one ever for him. He's doing 12-minute miles, which is pretty slow. And during the half marathon, when We did it for Greg, and I would say Scott and I did it for him. Right? It was to get him to do it, to
Uh,
get Greg, to get him to run. Scott and I, we did the half marathon, and Scott beat me by 3 minutes. I mean, he's
okay.
really fast. Yeah. Oh man, he's a tall guy. He's about 6 foot tall. He's Australian, and
It's like being tall helps, doesn't it?
yeah, tall
To
helps
take.
being a runner. The problem with being a tall runner is you get injured much more
Oh,
because you're more fragile.
okay.
Uh, because you know you're the torque, the physics of
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
your body works. Yeah, you get hurt more. I'm short. I'm a 5'6", so I'm a I'm much more typical for an Indonesian. Actually, I'm tall for an Indonesian.
How tall is that in meters?
In meters, 167, 170, something like that.
Yeah, I'm about that height.
Yeah, that's a typical, much more. When I was in Indonesia, I was kind of tall. I was, but not super tall for most Indonesians. I was like average.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and and like most Indian, I have an Asian. I call it an Asian body. I have like thin, right?
Okay.
It's just the diets, fish and so on,
Yeah,
vegetables. Yeah, not the American diet of meat and and fat. And so yeah. So yeah, and that's a good runner body. So you're smaller. If you look at the best marathoners, they're small. Um, uh,
oh, are they?
they're yeah, yeah, they're not tall. The best marathoners in the world, the Africans, the ones who are amazing, they're small. They're Indonesian and smaller. They're 5'6" and smaller. And
Oh,
that
okay.
yeah, they're just thin. Oh my God, they're unbelievable, unbelievably, lightweight. They have no fat, but but the best runners are small because they're compact.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and they don't, and the mechanics don't get hurt because they don't have as much weight. Uh,
Hmm.
so anyway, so Scott hurt his knee. That's very typical for a 50-year-old man who's 55 at this point, and I think he's going to have trouble the rest of his life. Meanwhile, my knees are just fine, um, and so
That's good.
I beat Scott by a lot this time, which was surprising. But that's so. I think Scott will be fine if he gets his knee back. That's another lesson for life.
What is it?
When you run downhill, slow down. that
Okay.
is a real lesson. People tell you not to run fast on the way down, and that's actually right. You can run a lot longer if you can run for much longer if you take the advice of the experts and not
Yeah.
and avoid a few certain stupid things. That is a lesson also.
Okay.
I had to learn that too. So I'm at 6 months now, no injury, and it's just great.
Yeah, that's good. Hope you have no other injuries soon.
Yeah. So there, how's that? Those are 4 lessons. Those are all pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like those were pretty good. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this
Hmm.
discussion? Um,
I would add one more thing. It's a more recent lesson.
okay.
So I've always been very good at concentrating, as I said,
Yeah.
which means translates in as a writer into 300 words a day. Sometimes 500 to 1,000 words a day is a great day for me. 1,000 words in one day is great for me. 500 is more typical. So that's writing and rewriting, thinking, etc. So I can write. I'm just telling you, this is my profession, right? I've written over 150 columns. I write for. Those are 1,600 words. I can write one of those in 2 days.
Okay.
I've written over 150 of them. So it's literally just 2 days I'm concentrating and I'm done on the same topic. That's the same thing I've been doing my whole life. I can concentrate until I just do it.
Yeah.
I learned professionally as a professor, you have to write 10,000 word essays. Professional professional writing as a professor is eight to 10,000 words.
You need to write as a
Okay.
professor?
Oh, I write a lot. Yes. Yeah. I write articles.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Research articles. So
Yeah,
I
okay.
write about the internet and the commercialization of the internet and things. So again, it's another kind of lesson. It's very similar to running, it turns out. Professional life is very similar. They share a lot of the same things. So you get whatever talent you're born with, and you can do something quick. And it's very satisfying. A 1,600 word essay is a very, don't get me wrong, I could do those in 2 days, and it is I get a big rush from doing those.
I wish I could do that.
Yeah, and everybody reacts the same way you react. Everybody says exactly that. By the way, all my cousins, all my aunts and uncles, they all
Really?
say that too. They say, "How do you do that? I wish I could do that." And I go, "I don't know. I've been doing it since I was young." But I know for me, that's 2 days. It's nothing. It's just 2 days. But that's what I was born with. I can't do many other things in 2 days. There are lots of other things I can't do in 2 days. But this is the thing that this is the gift I was given, so I'm going to use it.
It's
I
a
didn't
useful
appreciate it,
gift.
so I was. It's a use. Yeah, it's writing. It doesn't change the world, but it's useful. It's fun. Okay, so but here's the big lesson. Just like running, that's like running a 5K. Yeah, I could run a 5K any day. But to run a 10K, you need to actually train for 2 months. And as it turns out, to write an article that's 8 to 10,000 words, you can't do that overnight. You have to actually think hard. You have to do some work. It does take 2 months. You have to organize things for 2 months. And so that's professionally what I learned when I was in graduate school. That's professionally what they teach you how to do, how to organize your small essays over a course of a couple weeks so that everything blends together so that you have 10,000 words when you're done
Yeah.
and it's coherent. Okay, now I'm going to tell you something I didn't understand until 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago. The average length of a chapter of a book is 8,000 words.
What?
And yeah, I didn't know this because I'd never written a book. I had always spent my whole professional life for 20 years writing articles that were like 10K races. I would organize my mind. I would organize 2 months of activity, maybe 3 months of activity, because if it was hard, and I would get an article. That's kind of what my job has always been. I teach, half the time, and I write the other half of the time. So I write 2 articles a year, and and then and then the other, I've got these other little, columns that I write, and those I can do in 2 days. They're very easy. So
Yeah.
that's my professional life for 20 years. That's what it was. And and then I got this idea to write a book. And it turns out a book is an 8,000 word chapter. And then you have to decide how many chapters. And it can be, this is the last lesson. This is why you'll see it ties back to athletics. So I wrote a book, and what I learned, I wrote a book of 16 chapters, each of which are 8,000 words long. You can do the math. That's a lot.
28,000.
Yeah, and what I learned from that, it's like a marathon. You can't do it overnight. You can't do it in a month or 2 months or 3 months. You have to, it takes a year or more. So, what I learned was books are different than articles, and those are different from columns. And it's just like athletics. You put this thing out there as a goal, and then it ends up shaping everything for a long time. But it's extremely satisfying at the end in a way that's not that's just that the smaller stuff is not satisfying. The small stuff is still satisfying, but the small stuff I got for free. I didn't earn it. You know, there's a
What do you mean by, the small stuff?
like my 2,000 word essays.
Oh,
Those are
okay.
gifts. I still think of those just as a gift. I didn't. I'm just this is just I didn't. It's not me. It just a gift. I'm just. And if you and what I've learned, this is kind of again, it's just like athletics that this training turns out, and it turns out once you realize that there are lots of people who write about how to write a book, and then you can go ask professionals how to write books, and there are people who think a lot about how to organize your life to write the book. And by the way, for marathons the same way, there are people who have thought hard about profession, how do you do this. Turns out, oh, you can go ask professionals who've really thought hard about how to organize things around you so that,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a big parallel between my professional life and the athletics. I remember that was in your list of questions, and that was that has been one of the biggest lessons I've learned this last decade. And I wish I'd learned it. You know, I wish I knew this 30 years ago. But that's
Yeah.
yeah. But you know, it is what it is, and
That's what it is.
it's what it is. And like I'm going to write another book because it was really satisfying. It'll be it won't be easy. It will be easier
Then last
this
time.
time. Yeah. It's not easy. No marathon is ever easy, but it's easier this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels very satisfying because, right, it's using, it's giving something back. And and the books, the book give people it help that changes the world. People do actually. I got that somehow felt like I was actually giving something to the world, different than a marathon, which is just giving it to yourself.
Yeah. Giving, in your case, is that like education to the world,
Yeah, yeah, and
knowledge,
history. Yeah, knowledge.
history. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the in, that would be the last thing I think I would lead as the big external things. Yeah, that's actually kind of worth doing. I don't know if I'll do another one, but I'd like to at least. You have to do them in steps. You can't do it all at once. So I'm going to try get to a 10K this summer, and
Yeah.
we'll see. If I get to a 10K,
Okay.
then I'll get to a. I'll try to do a half marathon. If I get to a half marathon, then I'll try to get to a
Full marathon.
full marathon. That's how I got injured. That's why ever since the last half marathon, I've been trying to get to another half marathon. I got injured every single time. 8, 9 miles. That's always where I was getting injured.
Okay.
It's the same. It's life. It's kind of late for you. Are you doing
Yeah.
okay?
Okay. So I think I'm gonna go then. Sleep. Thank you so much for today.